Good evening, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Stirring the Pot in Cleveland. And hopefully, you can hear me better this time. We had some technical issues last time. Hopefully, I sound normal and you can hear me. If you can't hear me, would somebody out there who's watching me please let me know? That would be fantastic. Thanks again for tuning into the Fanatical Elves Network, part of Fans First Sports Network. Wow, what a weekend. Hope you enjoyed that beautiful weekend wherever you're watching this from. It's a little rainy tonight here tonight in the Buckeye State, lived here in Columbus. So all that stuff I just talked about for the last 25 minutes that I heard, you didn't hear any of it. So I'll try to speed it up here, but we're going to talk about the Cleveland Browns draft. And again, if you're watching, if you want to give me a shout out or let me know, a thumbs up, if you're watching this on YouTube, Facebook, or the X, let me know that you can hear me. With a thumbs up would be fantastic. And somebody out there in La La Land would just say, yeah, you can hear me. That would make me feel a lot better. Otherwise, I'm gonna have to get on my phone and try to listen to myself, see if it's coming through. And I don't want to do that, right? That would be kind of crazy. So we'll see here. But let's see. Since I'm here, I'll see if it's actually playing. Let's see here. Hey, there you go. So you can hear me. You can hear me. Thank you. All right. So we'll try not to screw this up. I think what happened was when I was doing the last episode, prior to me starting, part of my equipment got bumped and it went off, and I was in the studio already live. And sometimes we're in the StreamYard thing and it'll go and then it'll come back, and it didn't come back like it's supposed to. And all you heard was scattering and all these things. So, okay. So this was a good weekend. Oh, let's see. Somebody did comment. Oh, I appreciate that. Thank you very much, James. Appreciate that. At least I know there's somebody out there. Thank you. Thank you again. Tuning in, listening. Yeah, don't usually have this issue with this mic, so I was a little bit surprised. I think Jeffrey on YouTube saw it and he said something to me like 25 minutes ago, which I didn't see until 25 minutes passed. And so we're back. The Browns had a really good draft, and we're going to talk a little bit about that draft and how I think it really is probably one of the best Browns drafts in the history in recent memory. You really have to go back, and if you start looking at other drafts the Browns have had, this was a really good one. There are many things to talk about, to break down with this. And, we're talking about stirring the pot. The Browns also drafted a 6th-round kid by the name of Taylen Green. So all my notes that I had for the last show and my last studio are wiped out. So I'm doing this without my notes in front of me. That they give you this thing where I can put my notes in, it's gone. So all of this is from my memory. So hopefully I don't screw this up. But Taylen Green, Arkansas quarterback, had a really good career at Arkansas. Nothing spectacular, and that's why he got drafted in the 6th round. But he's a very talented, athletic kid. And some people have speculated, is he just a quarterback, or can the Browns going to use him in other ways? I could certainly see that happening here with the Browns. I'm trying to think who the kid is. Terrell Pryor, who used to play for the Ohio State Buckeyes, is somebody who comes to mind, who used to play for the Browns and did a little bit of both. He was quarterback. He did other things. He played wide receiver. And so we're going to talk about him. We're going to talk a little bit about some of these other draft picks. Thanks again for watching us earlier. A shout out to all of you guys who are watching us or listening to us. Please listen to us on Apple or Spotify or anywhere you listen to your podcast, because that's where we make the money for our podcast. It's great that you guys can tune in and watch us and listen to us. And we're growing our brand on YouTube as well. I think we're over the 400 subscriptions there. We're slowly but surely climbing. It would be great to hit that 500 mark on YouTube, but we really make the big bucks for our McDonald's Happy Meals if you listen to us later on Apple or Spotify. Just a minute or two, listen to us, give us 5 minutes. That would be great. I know there's a ton of podcasters out there and a ton of really good ones. We try to do our best, and we've got some really good guys here. Steve Gill just did his show earlier the other day, his Dog Pound South show. Rod and his brother Jeff do the Browns Blitz, very popular. They get a lot of great guests on, so tune into that. We also have the Browns Breakdowns with Sam the Man out there in Dallas, Texas, who Caleb Downs just signed with the Cowboys. So I'm interested to talk to Sam later on this weekend. On Thursday, we'll be doing our Fanatical Elves show. Also, I'll have my Johnny Cleveland podcast, so tune in for that. Um, let me not forget, Wednesday night is my new show, also with my buddy Troy. We do Stadium Mustard and the Cincinnati Chili Show. Fun things. We talk about food. Everybody loves food. So we'll be doing that Wednesday night at 9 o'clock. So the Browns had one hell of a draft. And yeah, I'm super stoked too, James. If you're watching still, James wrote, if you're listening to us later on Apple, Spotify, he says, I'm still stoked from the draft. Can't wait to see these dudes this season, especially Emmanuel McNeil. Warren, absolutely. Before we get to talk about Emmanuel, just back up a little bit. There's really some good material if you're looking for some stuff about the inside information about the Browns and their Browns war room. There was a piece written by a young lady from Yahoo Sports who was inside the Browns headquarters when they were doing their drafting and just listening to how all of that went down. Andrew Berry had a lot of phone calls from a lot of teams looking to move up or down, and he, worked a deal out with the Chiefs, and that was really interesting to read about how that all went down. There was a lot of conversation at 9 with Spencer Fanow, who the Browns took with their first pick. They stuck with that, and man, Spencer, what can you say? This kid is fantastic. If you watch any of the information on him or interviews of him, he's just he's a young kid, but man, this kid is talented. If you listen to any of the stuff that was like the pre-draft and where he actually interviewed with the Browns, smart ass, could be, a really talented kid. So, when we think about kids that we're drafting, like Jedrick Wills and Spencer Fanow, I just get a much better sense. Maybe you do too, with someone like Spencer Fanow. You just get a sense that he's going to be dynamite. You turn on the tape, he's just fantastic. The Browns also signed his brother as an undrafted free agent, so that's kind of a neat little story there too. But they stuck with that at 9. They passed on Caleb Downs, who I really wanted, Caleb from Ohio State. The Browns had opportunity to get Caleb Downs, and they didn't take him. Now Carnell Tate went a little bit earlier, but we'll talk about that here in a minute. They later in the next few picks, I know part of the conversation in this article we were reading about inside the Browns headquarters was that Tyler Simpson went at pick number 13, the quarterback from Alabama, to the Rams. And it's reported that Andrew Berry, or the owner, Jimmy Haslam, said that out loud. Well, Andrew knew this information well before that. And good luck, Rams. Good luck, Sean McVay. Those guys. I mean, he's annoyed. I understand the long-term thing there with Tyler Simpson, learning under the other veteran quarterback there for right now, and not, kids only had 15 starts in college football. I mean, some people have speculated that the Browns were really in on Tyler Simpson maybe at 24. I don't think they had any plans of drafting him. If they wanted to draft him, fine, but it wouldn't have been until after probably the second or maybe into the third round. Certainly not in the first round. So they pass on that, and then they get to pick 24, or they take KC Concepcion. And some of you were balking and complaining about that because all you would see is, oh, well, he's dropped passes. Have you ever watched the Cleveland Browns football game before? For God's sakes, man. Browns players drop passes all the time, professionals already. I'm not worried about KC Concepcion. Steve Gill, my colleague, talked about, Zach Flowers for the Baltimore Ratbirds. I mean, he dropped a bunch of passes in college too. I think he's worked his way out. KC Concepcion is going to be very good. But some of you were complaining then about the fact that they didn't take the Browns pass you thought on Denzel Boston. the big, tall, lanky wide receiver from Washington. Well, guess what? He didn't have to wait too long because the Browns took him at pick 39 at the beginning of the second round. Amen. And you're right, James. I would have been pissed as well. I wrote for Dog Pound Daily a few articles about that, and basically said it was we are saved ourselves from a freaking nightmare if that was the case. So they took Casey Concepcion, excited, talented kid. Some of you you've noted that Casey has issues with stuttering. Now, hard for you to believe this. I'm sure you maybe have noticed here that I used to have a stuttering issue. I just stuttered back in the day, and I've worked that out over the years. Obviously, I'm an old man now, but it is something that people deal with, and so I give props to someone who Casey, for standing in front of a microphone and being able to do that. It's not an easy thing to do. So I hope people can move on and move forward and not make that a hindrance in how you interpret and think of this kid, your perception of him. He's a fine young man. So then the Browns take this Denzel Boston. Boy, what a compliment. Bang, bang. What a duo. Think about that. Concepcion and Denzel Boston. Now, I guess Andrew Berry came out quickly and said, "Oh, now, hold on. Jerry Jeudy is still our bell cow." Haha, that's funny. Sure, Andrew, you can say that he's your bell cow, but Jerry Jeudy's a head case. He is. We'll see what happens. I'm not a fan. I haven't ever been. His lack of mental compatibility to play on this team and stay focused is not there all the time. Take, for example, there was the game last year where he was catching a pass and he is oblivious to the guy coming from behind him, knocking the ball away. Could have been a touchdown. Instead, he fumbles it away. He's a lazy player. He doesn't care much for the game. He's more interested in getting, headlines for making a catch or two here and there. Hopefully he can turn it around. Maybe he can be that bell cow, Andrew Berry. Maybe he can, but I'm not counting on that to happen. He got sent away from Denver for a reason. Denver wanted nothing to do with him. If you got talked to Denver Broncos fans, they were ecstatic that Jerry Jeudy left. So we'll see what happens next. But so then the Browns go after, and I'm going to get this Barber, the kid, Austin Barber. I don't have my notes. Remember, I lost my notes. But Austin Barber, who some also believe is one of the top, maybe even the best offensive linemen as well from Florida. So now not only do we have Spencer Fano, you've got Barber, along with all the free agents that we talked about, Zion Johnson and Titus Howard. So the Browns have they did what they said they were going to do. Todd Monken sounds more and more, and he's not winning me over completely, but it is different to listen to him compared to what we were listening to for the last 6 years with Kevin Stefanski. And not that Kevin Stefanski is a bad coach. It was just the way that he did things, the way his style is completely opposite in a lot of ways. Now, some people were saying they heard the speech that Todd Monken gave to his players last week on the playing field and saying, "Oh, how refreshing that was." Well, okay, it was refreshing, but suggesting that Kevin Stefanski never talked that way to his players. I think we have a short-term memory loss there because Kevin did talk to his players that way, but it's how we as fans interpret that information. So regardless, I think it's good that Todd Monken's here now. It's a new set of new voice. And I think the players will be receptive to that. They already sound like they are. The Browns went on to then draft a couple other players from Alabama. They drafted only their second defensive guy, Justin Jefferson, not the wide receiver, but the linebacker from Alabama. And then they went ahead and they picked up a couple tight ends, one from Cincinnati and one from BYU. They can complement Harold Fannin. Now, David Njoku, who had been with the team for the last up teen years, he is out there as a free agent. And I'm actually working on an article today for Dog Pound Daily is, would the Browns still consider maybe bringing him back? It would be obviously David Njoku probably thought he would be signed by now with some other team. He's not. He's going in the year 9, and teams are looking a little differently. And I think we'll see what happens with the Browns. I think it's a possibility. I don't think it's a strong possibility. I think there's other teams out there still that might sign David Njoku before the season starts, obviously, but we'll see. The other player that I wanted to come back to is this Taylon Green. And just again, what interesting player that the Browns got for a quarterback. And when you watch this tape of him, he ran the ball for over 700 yards rushing. We have Quinshon Judkins, but now you get this tall, lanky kid. They say they're going to use him as a quarterback, but I mean, I don't know. It just seems like they've got to get him somewhere into that. He just seems like he would fit into this Cleveland team. So Cleveland did very well with this draft. Very, very well. Every pick that they made was an A or a high B. And most people across the country are giving them an A grade. Now, the Browns, people have talked about over the years of drafting that, Browns fans and the Browns this is like our Super Bowl because we had never been to a Super Bowl. And so when we look at the draft, it's always so important to get just the right guy. And I'm not sure over the last decade and a half that we've gotten some good players. But when you really think, and it's really too early to say, is this the best draft because these guys have never played yet. But on paper, based on what we already have seen on paper and seen their experiences from the past, it's looking pretty strong. And I don't know you can really say that about any other draft class that the Browns have had. I went back and I looked over the last 20, 25 years. Go look for yourself. The only one that comes close, I wrote it down. I got it on my phone here. Let me look here real quick. Was back in the 2018 draft. Everybody knows 2018 because we're just coming off of all that horrible mess of 2016 and 2017 where we went 131-1. But in 2018, we went with Baker Mayfield at 1, Denzel Ward at 2, Austin Corbett at 3, Nick Chubb at 4. So those are our first 4 picks in rounds 1 and rounds 2. If you look the previous year in 2017, the Browns started that draft by taking Myles Garrett. Then they took Jabril Peppers and then David Njoku. They also took Larry Ogunjobi in that. Before that, I mean, there's just nothing. I mean, 2014, we all know what the hell that was all about. That was just the most disgusting draft of all time, right? I mean, you got Justin Gilbert that they took in the first round at pick number 8, Johnny Manziel at pick number 22. Joe Bitonio was the only player of the 2014 draft that would mount to anything. Now he's considering retirement. But that's it. Everybody else pretty much sucked. The year before that, if anybody was curious, 2013, our first pick in the first round in 2013 at pick number 6 was Barvavius Mingo from LSU. Everybody remember that? We took him at pick number 6 of the first round. Ugh. So, and the previous year before that, if anybody's curious, Trent Richardson, a running back, we took at 3. Jeremiah Love was taken at number 3 by the Arizona Cardinals this past year. But before then, I mean, there was just nothing. Now, 2020, we got Grant Delpit. We got Jordan Elliott, but they're not amounting to much. Grant Delpit has, obviously. But that was really about it until last year. Mason Graham, Carson Schwarzenegger, Quinshon Judkins, Harold Fannin, Dylan Sampson, Shedeur Sanders. I mean, these are the guys that are really the foundation piece. And now you get all these guys at the top: Emmanuel McNeil Warren, Spencer Fanow, Austin Barber, Casey Concepcion, Denzel Boston. We needed to rebuild the offense, and that's what we're doing right now. Let's pause for a quick commercial break. We'll be right back. Hey, we are back here on the Stirring the Pot in Cleveland. This is round two. I did my first show about an hour ago, but no one heard me. Y'all heard just a bunch of scratches and you didn't hear my beautiful voice. So now you do. Thank you again. I see some of you are commenting again. Thank you, James, for staying with me here. Let me see here. He was talking about, I would have been so pissed if they took, okay, I'm going to put your messages up here, James. So if you're listening to us later on Apple or Spotify, James, thanks for watching tonight. Again, I was mad that one of the two guys from the Bearded Browns made a valid point. Casey didn't have a great quarterback to play, had a crazy amount of inaccurate passes to him. I think he'll be just fine. I agree, and I think that's very true, and that's a good another good evidence on that. Your other comment here, I think it's going to be Judy, Bond, Boston, and KC, and we'll keep Thrash in the war. Yeah, in the wide receiver room, I think Tillman is going to be out. Yep, Cedric Tillman. I agree with that. You like Green? Yep. I see a wide receiver, tight end, or yep, like a Tatum, Hill there in New Orleans. Yep, I agree with that. And then we're talking about the draft here again. Chubb, Baker. Yep, you're right. Those guys. I mean, the 2018 draft was it. And Grant Delpit, yeah, Delpit's from LSU too. Delpit, LSU's had some players. When we took the Barbavius Mingo at 6, I mean, we look back at just what a crazy thing that was. I mean, I know they were hopeful. The Browns have taken many good players from LSU. So, speaking of good players, Ohio State, I'm wearing my Buckeye gear today, and I live here in the Columbus area, so I listen to all the radio. And if you're inundated, if you live in Columbus, you're almost made to become an Ohio State fan just because you live in the area. And my daughter played hoops at Buffalo, and I always tell this story. When there was a game NCAA tournament back in 2015, I think 2016, we had to come down here and play Ohio State at St. John's Arena. And at that point, I'm still a big Buffalo fan to this day. I'm still um, Kansas, I lived in Kansas and Wichita all those years, so I'm a big Shocker fan, big KU Jayhawk basketball fan, huge Kansas State Wildcat football fan. So I cheer for the basketball Jayhawks, but I also cheer for the K-State football team. I can't do that. I can't let anybody in Kansas know that because they would all, be very upset with me. Anywho, I'm wearing the gear today, but I talked to my daughter the other day and she's like, you've become a Buckeye fan. I'm like, no, I'm just inundated with it. So I hear about it. So actually I know a lot more about the Buckeyes. I mean, the Buckeyes drafted 11 guys this past weekend, which wasn't, well, I think it sets a record between the 11 this year and 14 last year. It ties the record of a 2-year stretch with guys being drafted in the NFL. It ties it with Georgia. They both had 25 players in the last 2 drafts. Georgia had 25 drafted between 22 and I think 25 players. So, all right. So let's see here. We got somebody else tuning in here. Thank you. Our wide receiver is going to be competitive for the last spots. It will be. You're right. And we'll have to see how that all plays out for the Brownies. I didn't mention this earlier, but we had, or maybe I did, I can't remember because I've done 2 shows. The Casey Concepcion, the Browns hadn't drafted a first round wide receiver in a decade, and that was Corey Coleman out of Baylor. And 10 years prior to that, in 2006, or maybe it was 2005, they drafted Braylon Edwards out of that school from up north. Braylon Edwards had a much better career. Corey Coleman sucked, So the fact that the Browns took Casey Concepcion at the end of the first round and then came right back and got Denzel Boston practically in the first round, the beginning stages of the second round, it says a lot, and can't wait to see these guys out there on the field to play. So it'll be a lot of fun. Let me see here. James, you got another comment about Buckeyes, but I live in West Virginia, so I cheer for West Virginia too. Yeah. Speaking of West Virginia, not you want to hear this story, but my daughter played all hoops, with Buffalo. And one of my first experiences, I didn't go down to West Virginia, but Mariah, my daughter, had really played. It was her freshman year. They played in the NIT. Back then it was the WNIT. And their first game was against the Mountaineers. And Mariah actually scored her first 2 points of her college career, that her freshman year. She sat most of her freshman season, got in a few smatterings of plays, but those were actually her first 2 points. She had a really good career, sophomore, junior, and senior year. Scored a lot more points, a lot of rebounds. But I do remember them playing the Mountaineers. That was in 2018, 2019. So no, actually, was that? No, it was back in 2014 2015 season. All right, we got another comment here. Thanks again. If you have something you want to share with me or ask me a question, this is a great time to do it. We are live here on the Fanatical Elves Network. This is our Stirring the Pot show in Cleveland. Used to do the show with Lou Marconi. Shout out to Lou Marconi. He's got his own network going right now, and great guy. I hope everyone tunes into his show. I think they still do their show on Friday nights. It's called Analyze This, I think now. So, Browns going to the biggest boom or bust team, all dependent on one quarterback and our young guys getting to be ready. We could be as high as 15 wins or as low as 8, depending on the quarterback play. Well, that's a stretch there. That's a big stretch. 15 wins, man. That'd be that'd be great. I don't know if that's really going to happen, but hell, who knows, right? It's the NFL. Anything's possible. I think as Browns fans, we are so accustomed to letting the other shoe fall. It can't be so good. There's got to be something that happens. I'm a big Shador fan. Many of you know that. I'm all on board with Shador. I know some of you still think, Deshaun's in play, and obviously the way that the Browns are talking about Deshaun, and I don't know. We'll see how it plays out. I think Shador's got a lot more upside. I think Deshaun is coming off of a plethora of injuries. We don't know what we're going to get. The last time he tried to go out, he won 1 game, lost 6. So I'm a big Shador fan, and I think the guys that I write with, a Dog Pound Daily, also talk about this. There was a good article written by my colleague about this idea about Shador with these new weapons and what that could be, how that could be a really good thing for him. So I think it could. I mean, 15 wins would be great. I think if there's an over under, I think the over under right now in Vegas is like 6.5. So I think that's a pretty safe. I don't know. I think it was around there last time, and I think I bet over that, and we lost. I think we only won 5 games. So, but I think we're going to at least get 8. Yes, we can always hope. All right. Can we beat the Ratbirds? Yeah, if we do make the playoffs or not. Tough 11 is more Vegas odds. Yeah, the Ratbirds. Oh, I hate the Ratbirds. They suck. They stole our team. Helps that we have the easiest schedule in the league this year. Yeah, that's true. That's a good observation. We'll have a lot of times. We only have 135 days till the season kicks off. We have a lot of time to talk about this. That's the best part is after the draft gets over, we have all this time, right? It's just crazy. Like by the time kickoff, lands, I think no. Anybody, if you guys are watching or listening, anybody know when the schedule is going to be announced or released? I think it's always been like that first or second week in May. They like to make it a big spectacle. Anybody know that date yet? If you do, chime in. Let me know. The Kentucky Derby, by the way, is this weekend. The horse racing starts, so it's starting. The summer season's starting. Mini camps are starting. Rookie camps are starting. OTAs are going to be starting. Let's see what else we got here. Toolman 2024 says no one thinks Watson can play 17 games and be effective and not get hurt. He's done. I mean, I thought that ship had sailed. At least that's what the Browns had told us. And did you see it when he was 1-6? I mean, he looked like he was scared of his shadow. I think that's the biggest thing that nobody wants to talk about. And maybe he's had to come to whatever moment in his life. And he, maybe I should finish that statement. That didn't sound very, very good. Um, all right, let me go on to this about Shador. Let's stop talking about Watson. Uh, Shador is my number one quarterback as well. I think Link Monken's his guy. I do. I really do. That interaction you saw, the comfortableness, the Shador talking last week about how he's being heard and the communication, I think that's huge. I think that his dad, not to say, talk about parents here, but Dion, knows the organization. I'm sure Dion has spoken to some people in the Cleveland organization. So there is no date yet. I bet we'll hear that date here any day now, James. I would imagine that would be happening pretty quick. So lots to talk about. We have 135 more days to talk about it. So I'm excited about this Taylor Green too. I mean, I've already mentioned him a couple times, but I think that that's something that really I'm interested to see what the Browns are going to do with this kid. Just a really good athlete. He's a good player. You want good players, and maybe he doesn't fit in quite as the quarterback, even though they're saying that. Put him out there like a tight end or a wide out, or let him run some of those sweeps. All right, let's move on really quick before I leave you guys. The Cavaliers, I know many of you talking about stirring the pot, fans are up in arms. I purposefully, and I know, did not watch the game yesterday because I'm like a lot of you guys. I get like when it comes to the Browns, I'll watch because I'm a diehard. But there's some moments where I just can't. And like with the Cavs game, I was just like too much. It was too stressful, and then they ended up losing. And I heard that they had a late 6 or 8 point lead with about 5 minutes to go, and they blew that. I think it's interesting when you go back and watch film on like Cavs teams. A lot of people have been very down on them, especially saying that Donovan Mitchell had a horrible game and James Harden. But the players aren't passing the ball very well offensively. They were stagnant. Basketball is the game of runs. It was a bad moment. The series is tied 2-2. I think they're the better of the two teams. I mean, I'm watching right now let's see, we've got the Pistons in Orlando. I mean, come on now. The Detroit Pistons are the number one seed. They're playing Orlando and they're down 2 games to 1. Now, you know me, what I think about JB Bickerstaff. I think he's an ass. I've always thought he was a jerk. I thought he was keeping this team back. Now, is Kenny Atkinson doing the same? I don't know. But the Cavs can look spectacular, 60% of the time, and they look like crap 48% of the other time. And that's why they're kind of the 4 seed right now. They're not the best. So we'll see if they can get by Toronto. I think that they will. But what happens next, I'm not sure. We could be playing Orlando here. If this is the 1 versus the 8, if we win that matchup against Toronto, then we potentially could be playing Orlando. And we've played Orlando before. I think we beat them the last time, but it was a struggle. It was a struggle. So the other thing that happened tonight, the Guardians went down to defeat. Some of you are baseball fans. They lost 3-2. They got jumped out to a early lead. I was talking when I recorded this before that nobody could hear me talking about, I'm an old school guy. I know like the 95, 97 teams, they were so great. I can recite the starting lineups, and we talk about it with some of my colleagues at work who are also big baseball fans. And it's just funny now because when you watch the teams like these new Guardians teams, I mean, Jose Ramirez, I know him, and some of the new younger guys, but there's so many guys that come up to the plate. And it's like, who's this guy? It's not like it used to be. I kind of miss that. The Indians had such a special group between that stretch between the mid 90s and the early 2000s. So Guardians still have a really good team. They have a good organization. I like the fact that they finally have changed all the colors of their seats now to all blue, so it all makes good sense. It's uniform, so that's good. But let's see. We got shows coming up galore this week. I'll have my Johnny Cleveland podcast tomorrow, so stay tuned for that. On Wednesday, we'll be doing the new Stadium Mustard and Cincinnati Chili show with my colleague Troy. We talk food, lots of food, different things, ballpark food, trip food, restaurants galore. Just we have a lot of fun talking about that, and who knows, we'll talk about anything on that show. Thursday, come back to us. We have our Fanatical Elf show on Thursday. Rod Bloom then does the Browns Blitz with his brother Jeff. I know they were very excited about the draft. I know my guy Steve Gill was very excited about the draft. He was like, that was one hell of a draft. And honestly, guys, like I go back to this, we talked about the history. I really, it's all on paper right now. We'll have to pan it out. But this draft and last year's draft, Andrew Berry's got to be given some props. I hope it works out for him. I hope it works out for us, the fans. We are the most dedicated, diehard fan base on the planet, hands down. And when you talk to other fans across the globe, most of them acknowledge that. Most of them feel sorry for us. So some of you pick on us because you're idiots, but for the most part, you're pretty generous. So anyway, with that, I think I'm going to part ways. Hope everybody has a very good evening. Oh, I got one other thing here. Let's see what he said. Watson's maybe 2 or 3 good games in him a year, but his investment was bad from the start. He should have been in an offender registration, not in collecting 100 million to sit and not make noise. Well, I kind of agree with that. He has really, I've talked about this other times on other shows, my Johnny Cleveland podcast. If you go back and listen to all my conversations I've had about Deshaun, he certainly has made being a Browns fan much more difficult. And this what the organization did to this fan base has made it very difficult on us fans. What the Browns have done the last 2 drafts hopefully will subside some of those hurtful feelings. I think that the organization understands that, but then you question it because when they start spinning these stories and saying they're going to give Deshaun an opportunity again, and then you hear clickbait material out there saying, well, I heard Deshaun did really good when you guys weren't watching with the cameras. I mean, I heard Tony Rizzo talking about that. That's simply clickbait. And, ESPN Cleveland, I love them. I love a lot of the guys there, Emmett Golden, these guys, some of these guys are really good, but a lot of these guys are just on there. I love Tony Rizzo, but Tony can be, he's just trying to grab your clips. He's trying to get you guys to tune in to listen. He's saying, oh, I've heard that, Deshaun was throwing the ball great. Fine, whatever. I'm going to hold steady. I got 135 days to argue with all of you guys or to agree with you that Shedeur is the number 1 guy. He should be starting in week 1. I've said it. I'm going to say it again until kickoff in week 1. We'll find out. Anybody finds out before me when the schedule releases, keep me posted. Thank you again for following us also on all these platforms. We're growing our brand. YouTube, we've crossed the 400 followers on YouTube. So thank you for doing that. Spread the love. Tell people about the Fanatical Elves Network. Until next time, take care. Sayonara. Go Browns.